The first time Lieutenant Ethan Marlowe saw Sari, she was standing in the center of the Aurora's vast observation deck, glowing faintly blue in the dim light. The bioluminescence of her species wasn't just a fascinating quirk, it was a subtle, elegant radiance that seemed to pulse with her emotions, or so the briefing manual claimed. In reality, Ethan thought it made her look like a high-tech nightlight that had just realized it was stuck with a crew full of dimwits. Sari, for her part, had already assessed her new colleagues with the precision of a xenobiologist observing lesser life forms. Humans were underwhelming. Physically fragile, emotionally erratic, and laughably overconfident in their abilities, they embodied chaos in every possible way. And yet, there was a peculiar allure to them, a vibrancy that Zalorians, logical and reserved by nature, found simultaneously baffling and, dare she admit, a little fascinating. Ethan, however, was a category of bafflement all his own. "Lieutenant Marlowe," she said, her voice a measured cadence that suggested she'd already decided this conversation would not be worth her time. "Do you always arrive late to mission briefings, or is this your attempt to make a unique impression?" Ethan grinned, adjusting the collar of his slightly rumpled uniform. "I figured being fashionably late would highlight my charm. Plus, it's not every day we welcome an intergalactic ambassador/cultural expert. I didn't want to steal your thunder." Sari's luminescent glow flickered briefly, a Zalorian equivalent of rolling her eyes. "How considerate. Shall we proceed, or do you require more time to cultivate your charm?" As Ethan took his seat, the rest of the crew smirked behind their datapads. Captain Alara Norwood, a no-nonsense woman with a perpetual air of exhaustion, raised an eyebrow at Sari. "You're going to fit in just fine," she said, her tone halfway between approval and sympathy. The briefing began, outlining the mission to an uncharted ice moon that showed signs of advanced but abandoned technology. Sari listened intently, her fingers poised over her hollow notes. Ethan, meanwhile, was fidgeting in his chair, spinning it in slow, deliberate circles. Sari's bioluminescence brightened as her patience dimmed. "Lieutenant Marlowe, is this spinning a ritual humans use to process information, or are you simply malfunctioning?" Ethan stopped mid-spin, flashing her a sheepish smile. "It's multitasking. Spinning keeps the blood flowing to my genius brain while I listen." Sari's lips pressed into a thin line. "Ah yes, the famed human genius. Shall I expect a demonstration of this phenomenon sometime soon?" The captain cleared her throat, unsuccessfully suppressing a smirk. "As much as I enjoy interspecies banter, let's focus. Lieutenant Marlowe, you'll be working closely with Specialist Sari to decode the structure's energy readings. Try not to break anything, or anyone." Ethan shot Sari a mock salute. "Yes, ma'am. I promise to keep my genius in check." Hours later, aboard a smaller shuttle en route to the ice moon, Ethan and Sari sat side by side in tense silence. The moon loomed ahead, its surface a glistening expanse of frost and jagged peaks. Ethan finally broke the quiet. "So, Sari, do you guys have ice moons where you're from? Or is this a new and exciting form of cold misery for you?" Sari glanced at him, her glow softening slightly. "My homeworld is a temperate aquatic planet. Ice moons are not part of our natural environment. However, I have read extensively about cryogenic ecosystems and their potential for supporting extremophile life forms." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "That's cool, I mean literally. Also, can I just say, cryogenic ecosystems sounds like a fancy way to say really cold places where nothing fun happens." Sari's glow flickered again, this time with amusement she tried to suppress. "It is fascinating how humans consistently downplay the majesty of the universe with such colorful language." "That's what we do best," Ethan said, leaning back in his seat. "Well, that and eating snacks that probably shouldn't qualify as food." He pulled out a bag of something brightly colored and crinkly. "Want to try a human delicacy? These are called crunch wafers." Sari hesitated, her scientific curiosity warring with her sense of decorum. Finally, she plucked a wafer from the bag and examined it as if it were a potentially volatile substance. Tentatively, she took a bite, her glow shifting in a rapid, almost hypnotic pulse. "Fascinating," she said, chewing slowly. "This is profoundly artificial. It tastes like the chemical equivalent of hubris." Ethan grinned. "Exactly. Welcome to the human experience." The shuttle landed smoothly on the icy surface, and the pair stepped out into the cold, their breath misting in the air. The ruins loomed ahead, a towering structure of black stone etched with intricate glowing patterns. Sari's glow brightened as she approached, her fingers brushing the surface of the carvings. "This architecture is unlike anything in the Galactic Union's database. The energy signature is faint, but stable. Remarkable." Ethan crouched nearby, examining a cluster of frost-covered devices. "I'm guessing these aren't ancient alien vending machines, huh?" Sari turned, her glow flickering in a way that might have been exasperation or amusement. "Unlikely. Though your penchant for humor does suggest an evolutionary link to scavengers." Ethan laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment." The two worked in companionable silence, scanning and documenting their findings. Despite their differences, Sari found herself appreciating Ethan's adaptability and quick thinking. He approached problems with a reckless ingenuity that, while deeply illogical, often produced results. When an unexpected energy surge disrupted their equipment, Ethan improvised by connecting two malfunctioning devices with a length of insulated wire and a fragment of his multi-tool. "Voila," he said, grinning as the equipment hummed back to life. "Human ingenuity in action." Sari raised an eyebrow. "Human recklessness, you mean? That could have caused a feedback loop." "True," Ethan admitted, "but it didn't, and now we can keep working. You're welcome." As they continued their exploration, Sari realized something unexpected. For all his flaws, Ethan had a way of turning chaos into possibility. And for the first time in her life, she found chaos intriguing. The ice moon's surface crunched beneath Ethan's boots, a rhythmic reminder of the eerie stillness that surrounded them. The ruins they had begun to explore towered above, a labyrinth of black stone and glimmering veins of an iridescent material Sari had identified as akin to Zolorian biocrystals. The structure pulsed faintly, like the slow heartbeat of a slumbering titan. Ethan pulled his scarf tighter against the chill, his breath curling in the frigid air. "You know," he said, glancing at Sari, who was studying a panel of symbols etched into the wall, "this place reminds me of my college dorm. Dark, cold, and vaguely hostile. The only thing missing is a passive-aggressive roommate." Sari didn't look up. "If your educational institutions resemble ancient ruins on uninhabitable moons, it would explain much about your species' development." Ethan chuckled, tapping a flashlight against his leg to coax it back to life. "Fair point, but seriously, this place feels alive, like it's waiting for something, or someone." Sari tilted her head, her glow flickering as she processed his words. "Interesting observation, Lieutenant. Many ancient structures incorporate bioreactive elements that respond to specific stimuli. It is possible that your presence, being both unpredictable and erratic, has already activated latent mechanisms." Ethan smirked. "So, you're saying I'm special?" "Special," Sari said, her glow steadying to a cool blue, "is a word with many interpretations." As they moved deeper into the ruins, the air grew noticeably warmer, a stark contrast to the frozen surface outside. Ethan paused to examine a set of spiraling glyphs etched into a doorway, his fingers trailing the grooves. "Ever get the feeling you're being watched?" he asked, peering into the dim corridor ahead. Sari activated her wrist scanner, the device casting a soft green light over the walls. "It is unlikely any sentient life remains here. However, the energy readings suggest automated systems may still be functional." "Great," Ethan muttered. "Let's just hope these ancient automatons aren't the kill first, ask questions never type." Sari's lips curved into what might have been a smile, though it was hard to tell with Zolorian facial expressions. "Your humor appears inversely proportional to the danger of our situation," A fascinating survival mechanism. Laugh or cry, sorry, Ethan said, stepping through the doorway. And I'd rather not freeze my tears off. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with towering spires that seemed to hum with latent energy. At the center of the room was a pedestal holding a crystalline orb that pulsed faintly, casting shifting patterns of light across the walls. Sari approached the orb cautiously, her glow intensifying as she extended a hand toward it. This artifact is unlike anything I've encountered. Its energy signature is highly complex, almost organic. Ethan stayed back, his instincts screaming that touching glowing alien artifacts rarely ended well. Maybe we should call the ship first? Let the eggheads up there argue about this thing before we accidentally wake up an intergalactic superweapon. Sari hesitated, her fingers hovering inches from the orb. Your caution is uncharacteristically prudent, Lieutenant. Yeah, well, Ethan said, scratching the back of his neck. I've seen enough holovids to know how these things go. First, we touch the glowing thing, then it activates some ancient curse, and before you know it, we're running from tentacled monsters or getting vaporized. Sari gave him a sidelong glance. Your cultural narratives are imaginative, if not entirely rational. Still, your point is noted. Instead of touching the orb, she activated a remote scanner, sending a wave of light over the artifact. The orb responded with a low hum, and the patterns of light on the walls shifted into what appeared to be moving glyphs. Ethan whistled. Okay, that's either really cool or really ominous. Possibly both. Sari's glow pulsed in quick succession as she studied the glyphs. These symbols appear to be a form of ancient code. If we can decipher their meaning, it may reveal the purpose of this structure and its creators. Ethan crossed his arms. Decoding ancient alien languages in a spooky ruin. This is officially the most sci-fi thing I've ever done. Sari paused, her glow flickering faintly. Science fiction? You know, Ethan said, gesturing vaguely. Science fiction. Space adventures. Big mysteries. Quirky characters. Like us. Sari regarded him with what might have been mild amusement. You consider yourself quirky? Compared to you, yeah, Ethan said with a grin. You're like a walking encyclopedia. I'm more of a fun facts and bad jokes kind of guy. As they worked to decipher the glyphs, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. Ethan instinctively reached for his sidearm, though it felt woefully inadequate against whatever ancient threat might be stirring. Sorry, he said, edging closer to her. Please tell me that's just the moon settling or something equally non-terrifying. Sari's glow dimmed as she checked her scanner. Unlikely. The energy signature is fluctuating rapidly. It may be a defense mechanism or a signal. A signal to who? Ethan asked, his voice rising slightly. Before Sari could answer, the hum of the orb grew louder and a section of the wall slid open to reveal a figure. It was humanoid in shape but entirely mechanical, its body a sleek combination of black metal and the same iridescent material that lined the ruins. Its glowing eyes fixed on the pair, and it spoke in a language neither of them understood. Ethan raised his hand slowly, forcing a nervous smile. Hey there, shiny friend. We're just here to admire the architecture. No need to zap us or anything. Sari stepped forward, her glow steady and calm. It appears to be a sentry. Its movements suggest it is analyzing us, not preparing for aggression. Great, Ethan said, still holding his hands up. Let's keep it that way. You talk to it, and I'll try not to panic. After a tense exchange of glyphs and gestures, Sari managed to communicate that they were explorers, not intruders. The sentry seemed to accept this, stepping aside to allow them further into the chamber. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Remind me to never question your encyclopedia skills again. Sari's glow brightened slightly. Acknowledged, and remind me to commend you for not panicking. Much. Ethan chuckled. Hey, I'm a work in progress. As they continued deeper into the ruins, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the structure, and whatever had created it, was watching them. but for the first time, he found himself trusting Sari's calm logic. "Guess we make a pretty good team, huh?" he said, shooting her a grin. Sari glanced at him, her glow softening. "Perhaps, though I reserve the right to revise that assessment based on future performance." Ethan laughed, the sound echoing through the ancient chamber. "Fair enough. Just don't forget who saved the day with duct tape last time." Sari's glow flickered again, this time unmistakably amused. "How could I?" And as they moved forward into the unknown, the faint hum of the ruins seemed to echo their unlikely camaraderie, hinting at mysteries yet to come. Ethan and Sari stood in what could only be described as the nerve center of the ruins. Towering columns of crystalline material pulsed faintly in rhythmic intervals, filling the cavernous chamber with a low, resonating hum. The sentry, their enigmatic mechanical escort, hovered nearby, its glowing eyes fixed on them like a cat watching a particularly baffling pair of mice. Ethan scratched his head. "So just to recap, we've followed a glowing robot into the heart of an alien ruin, activated who knows what, and now we're standing in what looks like the galaxy's fanciest server room. Did I miss anything?" Sari's glow pulsed in a slow, contemplative rhythm as she studied the columns. "Your summary, while reductive, is accurate. The energy readings here are extraordinary. This structure is not merely a ruin. It is operational." Ethan gestured at the sentry. "And our shiny chaperone here, what's their deal? Tour guide? Security guard? Annoyed homeowner?" The sentry emitted a series of melodic tones that echoed through the chamber. Sari tilted her head, her bioluminescence shifting to a bright focused cyan. "It is attempting to communicate. The tones correspond to a mathematical sequence." "Great," Ethan said, leaning against one of the crystalline columns. "You're a math genius. I'll leave you two to bond while I—" The column he was leaning on suddenly flared with light, and Ethan jumped back with a yelp. "Lieutenant Marlowe," Sari said, her glow darkening with exasperation, "your propensity for causing unintended activation events is truly remarkable." Ethan held up his hands defensively. "Hey, I didn't touch anything. It touched me." The sentry moved closer, emitting more melodic tones. This time, the tones were accompanied by a series of holographic glyphs that projected from the nearest column. Sari stepped forward, her fingers deftly tracing the glyphs as she analyzed them. "This appears to be a data repository," she said, her glow brightening with excitement. "If we can access its contents, we may uncover the purpose of this facility." Ethan peered at the glowing symbols. "That's great and all, but I feel like we're forgetting one tiny detail. What if this purpose involves something unfriendly, like melting our brains or summoning alien overlords?" Sari didn't look up. "Speculation without evidence is counterproductive. Besides, the sentry has not exhibited hostility. It is more likely to be a custodian than an enforcer." "Custodian, huh?" Ethan glanced at the sentry, which tilted its head, or at least what Ethan assumed was its head, in response. "Well, if it pulls out a mop, I'll take your word for it." Sari activated her wrist scanner, linking it to the holographic glyphs. The columns began to emit a series of cascading lights, each sequence illuminating more of the chamber. Ethan watched as the lights spread like veins of fire through the crystalline structures, creating a dazzling display that reminded him of fireworks frozen mid-explosion. "Okay," he said, shading his eyes against the brilliance. "That's either really cool or the prelude to our untimely demise." Sari ignored him, her focus entirely on the data stream now unfolding before her. "This is extraordinary. The glyphs are not merely linguistic. They are a hybrid of code and art. Each sequence conveys layers of meaning." "Great," Ethan said, squinting at the flashing lights. "And what do these layers say? Welcome, honored guests, or prepare to be vaporized?" Sari's glow flickered with amusement. "Neither. The repository appears to contain historical data. It references a great catalyst, an event of profound significance to the creators of this structure." Ethan frowned. "Great catalyst?" Sounds ominous, like the kind of thing that ends with planets exploding. Sari's glow dimmed slightly as she considered this. The context is unclear. However, the data suggests that this facility was built to monitor and preserve something critical. Critical like a power source? A weapon? Ethan's tone was light, but his hand hovered near his sidearm. Sari shook her head. More likely, it is a repository of knowledge. The creators prioritized preservation over destruction. The sentry emitted another melodic sequence, and a new series of glyphs appeared, this time accompanied by a holographic image. It depicted a star system with a glowing object at its center, a swirling mass of energy that seemed to pulse with life. Ethan whistled. Is that the great catalyst? Because it looks like a cosmic disco ball on steroids. Sari's glow brightened. It is a singularity, a stable anomaly unlike anything in known space. The data suggests it was the focal point of the creator's civilization. Ethan leaned closer to the hologram, his curiosity outweighing his caution. So, what happened to them? Did the singularity go kaboom, or did they just leave? Sari's glow dimmed. The data does not specify. However, the facility's activation may indicate that the creators anticipated a return, or an inheritor. Inheritor? Ethan glanced at the sentry, which was now observing him with what he swore was a hint of curiosity. Wait, are we the inheritors? Because I feel wildly unqualified for that job. As the glyphs continued to display new information, a low rumble shook the chamber. The crystalline columns dimmed momentarily before flaring back to life, their pulses now irregular. Ethan tensed. Sorry. Is this part of the plan, or should we start running? Sari checked her scanner, her glow fluctuating rapidly. The facility's energy levels are destabilizing. It may be responding to our presence or to external factors. The sentry emitted a series of rapid tones, its glowing eyes flashing in synchronization with the columns. Sari's glow brightened as she turned to Ethan. We must leave immediately. The facility is entering a defensive state. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. Right. Let's not stick around to find out what that means. As they sprinted toward the exit, the crystalline columns began to shift and realign, their movements accompanied by a cacophony of grinding stone and humming energy. The sentry followed closely, its glowing eyes scanning the path ahead. Ethan couldn't resist a quip, even as his pulse raced. You know, for an ancient ruin, this place has way too many moving parts. It's like running through a malfunctioning pinball machine. Sari glanced at him, her glow steady despite the chaos. Your ability to make light of perilous situations is both impressive and baffling. Thanks, Ethan said, dodging a falling fragment of crystal. It's a coping mechanism. Just as they reached the chamber's entrance, the sentry emitted a high-pitched tone and extended a glowing appendage toward a panel on the wall. The rumbling ceased, and the columns returned to their original positions, their pulses stabilizing. Ethan stopped to catch his breath, leaning against the wall. Did it just save us? Sari's glow flickered in agreement. It appears the sentry is capable of overriding the facility's defensive protocols. This suggests it recognizes us as non-hostile. Ethan glanced at the sentry, a newfound appreciation in his eyes. Well, I take back all the jokes I made about it earlier. Shiny here is officially my favorite robot. The sentry tilted its head, emitting a soft chime that almost sounded like amusement. Sari's glow brightened as she examined the sentry. It may be more than a robot. Its behavior suggests a degree of sentience. Great, Ethan said, grinning. First contact with a sentient ancient robot. That's definitely going in my mission report. Right under, don't lean on alien columns. As they exited the ruins, the ice moon's frigid air hit them like a wall. Ethan shivered, but his grin remained. For the first time, he felt like they were on the verge of uncovering something truly extraordinary, and maybe, just maybe, surviving it. The ice moon's horizon stretched before them, bleak and brilliant under the light of a distant sun. Ethan trudged beside Sari, his breath misting in the frigid air. The sentry hovered a few paces ahead, its glowing form casting shifting shadows over the glacial terrain. Ethan broke the silence with a wry grin. "So Sari, on a scale of bad dream to we're doomed, how would you rate today's adventure?" Sari's glow flickered with faint amusement. "Closer to unexpected opportunity. The facility's activation and the sentry's cooperation are unprecedented. We are witnessing history." Ethan snorted. "Glad one of us sees it that way. I'm over here just hoping I don't lose a toe to frostbite." Sari didn't respond, instead focusing on the holographic map projected by the sentry. The shimmering display depicted a star system with intricate pathways connecting various celestial bodies. At the center was the swirling anomaly they had seen earlier, the so-called Great Catalyst. "Still trying to figure out why this thing is so eager to help us," Ethan said, nodding toward the sentry. "Not that I'm complaining, but ancient robots aren't usually this accommodating. It may recognize us as potential inheritors of its creator's legacy," Sari said, her glow steady. "Alternatively, it could be assessing our intentions. Its actions suggest a mix of curiosity and protocol." Ethan smirked. "So basically it's like a nosy landlord checking to make sure we're not trashing the place." The sentry chimed softly, as if in response, and Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Did it just agree with me?" Sari's glow brightened slightly. "Its responses are difficult to interpret, but it does appear to react to your humor. Perhaps it finds you engaging." "Well, that makes one of us," Ethan muttered, though he couldn't hide his grin. The map flickered, and a new image emerged, a detailed rendering of the ice moon itself. Ethan and Sari exchanged glances as the sentry highlighted a location not far from their current position. "What's that?" Ethan asked, pointing to the glowing marker. Sari tilted her head. "Another structure, perhaps. The sentry seems intent on guiding us there." "Great," Ethan said, rubbing his hands together. "More ancient ruins to explore. Can't wait to see what else tries to kill us." Sari's glow pulsed faintly, a Zolorian equivalent of rolling one's eyes. "Your pessimism is noted, Lieutenant. However, this could provide valuable insight into the creator's intentions." Yeah, Ethan said, adjusting his pack. "Lead the way, Shiny." The sentry emitted a series of melodic tones and began gliding toward the marked location. Ethan and Sari followed, the crunch of ice beneath their boots the only sound in the stillness. The trek was mercifully short, and soon they arrived at what appeared to be a smaller, more intact facility. The entrance was a seamless archway that shimmered faintly, as if coated in liquid light. "Okay," Ethan said, peering at the archway. "That doesn't scream danger at all." Sari activated her scanner, her glow intensifying. "The energy signature is stable. It appears to be a transport hub, possibly a conduit to other locations." "Like a space subway?" Ethan asked, stepping closer. "Because I've seen enough movies to know these things usually come with a one-way ticket to trouble." Sari ignored him, her focus on the scanner. "The architecture is consistent with the previous structure, but the energy flow suggests a different purpose. This may be a means of accessing the creator's network of facilities." Ethan crossed his arms. "And by accessing, you mean stepping into the glowing portal and hoping we don't end up as alien pancakes?" "Your colorful metaphors are unique," Sari said, her glow flickering with faint amusement. The sentry chimed again, positioning itself near the archway. Its glowing appendages moved in precise patterns, activating a sequence of lights that pulsed along the arch's surface. "Well," Ethan said, taking a step back, "it's either inviting us in or powering up a death ray. Place your bets." Sari stepped forward, her glow steady. "It is an invitation. The sentry's actions are deliberate, and its behavior remains non-hostile." Ethan sighed. "Fine, but if I end up as a cautionary tale in some alien history book, I'm blaming you." As they passed through the archway, The world around them dissolved into a swirl of light and sound. Ethan felt a brief, disorienting tug, as if gravity itself had taken a momentary coffee break. When the sensation subsided, they found themselves in a circular chamber filled with holographic displays and floating crystalline nodes. "Okay," Ethan said, shaking his head to clear the dizziness. That was unsettling, like being stuck in a blender, but less messy. Sari ignored his commentary, her attention on the displays. The sentry moved to the center of the chamber, its glowing eyes scanning the nodes. "This is a control center," Sari said, her glow bright with excitement. "The network spans multiple systems. We could learn everything about the creators from here." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Everything? Like what they ate for breakfast and their favorite sports teams?" Sari's glow dimmed slightly. "Likely more significant data. Cultural, technological, and historical records." "Right," Ethan said, suppressing a grin. "Let me know when you find their version of reality TV. That's the real gold mine." The sentry activated one of the nodes, and a series of holographic images filled the chamber. They depicted the creators, a tall, elegant species with elongated limbs and intricate glowing patterns across their skin. Ethan whistled. "Wow, and I thought Sari was fancy. These guys make you look downright low-tech." Sari's glow brightened, a rare display of pride. "Their design is exquisite. Their integration of biology and technology surpasses even Zolorian advancements." Ethan smirked. "Careful, Sari. If you gush too much, I might think you're falling for them." Sari tilted her head. "Falling? I do not understand." "It's a joke," Ethan said, chuckling. "Don't worry about it." As the holograms continued to play, one image caught Ethan's attention, a depiction of the Great Catalyst, surrounded by a massive fleet of ships. The ships were sleek and imposing, their designs unlike anything he'd seen before. Sorry?" Ethan said, pointing at the display. "Care to explain why they needed an armada around their cosmic disco ball?" Sari studied the image, her glow dimming. "It is unclear. The fleet's presence suggests a defensive posture, but the data does not indicate a specific threat." "Great," Ethan muttered. "So, not only do we have a mysterious singularity, but now we've got a mystery fleet to go with it. This just keeps getting better." The sentry chimed, drawing their attention to another node. This one displayed a star map with a single system highlighted in red. "What's that?" Ethan asked, leaning closer. Sari's glow brightened as she analyzed the map. "It is a location, likely the origin point of the fleet or a key facility. The sentry seems to believe it is significant." Ethan sighed. "Of course it does. Let me guess. We're going there next?" Sari nodded. "It is the logical course of action." Ethan shook his head, a lopsided grin on his face. "You Zolorians and your logic. One of these days, it's going to get us both killed." Sari's glow flickered faintly. "Then let us ensure it is not today." Ethan chuckled despite himself. "Fair enough, partner. Let's see where this rabbit hole leads." As they prepared to leave the chamber, the sentry emitted another melodic chime, its glowing eyes fixed on Ethan. For a moment, he could have sworn it was smiling, if robots could smile. "Well, Shiny," Ethan said, patting the sentry lightly, "I guess you're stuck with us now. Hope you like bad jokes." The sentry's soft chime sounded almost like laughter, and Ethan couldn't help but laugh with it. For the first time since landing on the ice moon, he felt like they might just have a shot at figuring this out and surviving to tell the tale. The journey to the new location, highlighted on the star map, was anything but straightforward. For starters, the logical course of action, as Sari had put it, involved navigating through an asteroid field that could only be described as a chaotic rock ballet. Ethan was at the helm, white-knuckling the controls of their battered exploration vessel while muttering under his breath. "Sure, Sari," he said, dodging a spinning asteroid the size of a small moon. Logical course of action. Perfectly reasonable to fly into the universe's most aggressive rock garden. What could possibly go wrong? Sari, sitting calmly in the co-pilot's seat, tilted her head, her bioluminescence casting a soft glow in the dim cabin. Your hyperbolic assessment is unnecessary. The asteroid field presents a manageable challenge with appropriate navigation. Ethan shot her a look. Appropriate navigation? Sorry, this ship was held together with duct tape last week. If one of these rocks so much as sneezes on us, we're toast. Sari's glow brightened faintly, which Ethan had come to recognize as her version of a smirk. Rocks do not sneeze, Lieutenant Marlowe. Not with that attitude, Ethan grumbled, jerking the controls to avoid a collision. Behind them, the Sentry floated serenely, its glowing appendages moving rhythmically as if in sync with the chaos outside. Ethan glanced back at it. Glad someone's enjoying the view. You could have warned us about this, Shiny. The Sentry emitted a series of soft chimes that sounded suspiciously like laughter. After what felt like an eternity, they cleared the asteroid field and emerged into open space. Ethan slumped back in his seat, exhaling dramatically. I swear, he said, if the next leg of this trip doesn't involve a spa planet, I'm filing a formal complaint with the universe. Sari's glow shifted to a soft green, an expression of mild amusement. Your resilience is commendable, even if your dramatics are excessive. Before Ethan could respond, the Sentry emitted a sharp tone, drawing their attention to the navigation console. The red highlighted system on the star map had come into view, a binary star system with a peculiar anomaly orbiting the smaller of the two stars. That's it? Ethan said, leaning forward. Looks ominous, which I'm starting to realize is par for the course with these ancient creators. Sari adjusted the ship's sensors, her glow intensifying. The anomaly is emitting a distinct energy signature. It is consistent with the data from the ruins. And what about the fleet we saw in the holograms? Ethan asked. Any chance they're still hanging around, waiting to say hello? Sari's glow dimmed slightly. Unlikely. The energy signature shows no signs of active vessels. However, the anomaly itself may contain remnants of their presence. Ethan nodded. Great. Let's go poke the bear then. As they approached the anomaly, it became clear that it was not a natural phenomenon. The object orbiting the smaller star was a massive structure, dwarfing even the largest space stations Ethan had seen in his career. Okay, he said, his voice tinged with awe. That's not what I was expecting. It's like a city floating in space. Sari's glow brightened as she analyzed the structure. It is a Dyson fragment, a megastructure designed to harness stellar energy. However, this one appears to have been repurposed. Repurposed for what? Ethan asked. The Sentry emitted a series of melodic tones, projecting a holographic map of the structure. The map highlighted a central chamber surrounded by a labyrinth of tunnels and conduits. Sari studied the projection. The central chamber may contain the answers we seek. The Sentry is guiding us there. Ethan groaned. Of course it is, because nothing says good idea like diving into an ancient abandoned megastructure with zero backup. You exaggerate, Lieutenant, Sari said, her tone calm. We have the Sentry, and your humor will no doubt prove invaluable in diffusing potential threats. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Was that a joke? Sari's glow flickered faintly. Merely an observation. Docking with the Dyson fragment was surprisingly easy, which only made Ethan more suspicious. This feels too convenient, he said as they stepped into the structure's interior. The airlock doors hissed shut behind them, and the artificial gravity engaged with a faint hum. The interior was a stark contrast to the icy ruins they had explored earlier. Smooth, metallic corridors stretched out before them, illuminated by soft, pulsing lights that seemed to guide their path. Well, Ethan said, glancing around. At least it's not freezing. That's a nice change of pace. The Sentry led the way, its glowing appendages scanning the walls as they moved. Ethan and Sari followed, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Do you ever get the feeling we're being watched? Ethan asked, his hand hovering near his sidearm. Sari tilted her head. The structure's systems are active, but there are no indications of sentient presence. Your unease is likely a product of your imagination. Thanks, sorry, Ethan said dryly. That's super reassuring. As they neared the central chamber, the corridors began to change. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings that glowed faintly, depicting scenes of the Creator's civilization. Ethan paused to examine one of the carvings. Looks like they were big on teamwork, or maybe interpretive dance. Sari's glow shifted to a thoughtful cyan. These carvings depict a ritual. It may be related to the Great Catalyst. Ritual, huh? Ethan said, moving closer. Let me guess. Lots of chanting, weird hand movements, and a dramatic finale? Before Sari could respond, the sentry emitted a sharp tone, urging them onward. The central chamber was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. A massive sphere hovered in the center, its surface shimmering with a mix of light and shadow. Conduits extended from the sphere like tendrils, connecting to the walls and ceiling. Okay, Ethan said, staring up at the sphere. That's definitely not a standard feature on most megastructures. Sari's glow brightened as she activated her scanner. The sphere is a core node, likely the primary control system for the Dyson fragment. Its energy readings are extraordinary. Ethan approached cautiously. And by extraordinary, you mean dangerously unstable, right? Sari didn't answer, her focus entirely on the scanner. The sentry moved to the base of the sphere, emitting a melodic tone. A section of the sphere's surface shifted, revealing a control interface covered in glowing glyphs. Well, Ethan said, crossing his arms, I think we all know what's coming next. Sari, you're up. I'll just be over here, not touching anything. Sari stepped forward, her glow steady as she began deciphering the glyphs. The sphere responded to her input, its surface rippling like liquid. Ethan watched nervously. So, what's the plan here? Are we turning this thing on, off, or into a giant disco ball? Sari didn't look up. We are accessing its records. The sphere may contain the Creator's final message, or a warning. Ethan sighed. Great. Just once, I'd like to find something ancient and mysterious that doesn't come with a side of existential dread. The sphere flared with light, and a holographic projection filled the chamber. It depicted the Creators standing before the Great Catalyst, their expressions solemn. A voice, melodic and resonant, echoed through the chamber. Let me guess, Ethan said, crossing his arms. It's saying, you shouldn't have come here. Sari's glow flickered faintly. No, Lieutenant, it's welcoming us. Ethan blinked. Well, that's new. Guess we're doing something right for once. The hologram continued, its tone shifting as it conveyed a mixture of hope and urgency. Sari's glow brightened. The message is clear. The Great Catalyst is not merely a power source, it is a key, and its purpose is more vital than we imagined. Ethan frowned. A key to what? Sari turned to him, her expression unreadable. To the survival of everything. The chamber pulsed with light, the holographic Creators frozen in their final pose, as if caught mid-gesture. Ethan stared at the ethereal figures, his mind racing. The last thing he'd signed up for was playing savior to the universe, or unlocking ancient cosmic keys for that matter. Well, he said, breaking the silence, at least they didn't yell at us for trespassing. That's progress, right? Sari, her glow oscillating between cyan and amber, ignored him, her focus on the console in front of her. The sphere continued to shimmer and ripple, a living entity wrapped in technology. You're way too calm about this, Ethan muttered, crossing his arms. We just got told we're holding the key to survival for, what, the galaxy? The universe? No pressure. Sari turned her luminous gaze toward him, her tone dry. Would you prefer I panic? Your humor is better suited for easing tension. Ethan smirked. Oh, I'm easing tension, all right. You're just too stoic to appreciate it. The sentry chimed softly, floating toward the console. Its appendages extended, interfacing with the sphere's glyph-covered surface. Sari observed its actions closely. It is initiating the next phase, she said, her glow steadying to a thoughtful green. Next phase? Ethan asked, raising an eyebrow. Care to elaborate, or should I just brace for impact? Sari's glow shifted slightly. The sphere is unlocking additional data. The creators referred to it as the Pathway Protocol. It may provide us with coordinates for the Great Catalyst, or warnings about its use. Warnings, Ethan echoed, his voice heavy with sarcasm. Great, because if there's one thing ancient alien tech is good at, it's ominous warnings. The sphere flared once more, and a new hologram filled the chamber, a map of the galaxy, its stars connected by glowing lines. One line burned brighter than the rest, tracing a path toward a distant, faintly pulsating point. There, Sari said, pointing to the pulsating marker. The creators identified this as the location of the Great Catalyst. Ethan leaned closer, studying the map. And what's that ominous void around it? Looks like someone took a giant eraser to the starfield. The void is unnatural, Sari admitted, her glow dimming slightly. It may be the result of the catalyst's activation or a side effect of its presence. Fantastic, Ethan muttered. Nothing says good idea like flying straight into a starless abyss. The sentry emitted a low rhythmic tone, drawing their attention. Its light flickered as if in anticipation, urging them forward. Well, Shiny's ready to go, Ethan said. Guess that means we are too. Sari hesitated for a moment, her glow shifting to a soft blue. Lieutenant Marlowe, this mission may become more perilous than anticipated. If you wish to reconsider, Ethan interrupted, giving her a lopsided grin. Sorry, you'd be lost without my charm and stunning piloting skills. Besides, someone's got to keep you from taking everything so seriously. Sari's glow brightened faintly, a subtle but unmistakable sign of amusement. Your confidence is reassuring. Glad I could help, Ethan said, clapping his hands. Now let's go chase this cosmic breadcrumb before I change my mind. The journey to the void was unlike anything Ethan had experienced. The closer they got to the pulsating point, the more the stars seemed to fade. It wasn't a gradual dimming. It was as if the fabric of space itself were unraveling, leaving a gaping blackness in its wake. I don't like this, Ethan said, gripping the controls tightly. Space isn't supposed to just stop. Sari's bioluminescence cast a soft glow across the cockpit. The void is a spatial anomaly. It defies conventional physics, much like the Dyson fragment. Great, Ethan said, because defying physics always ends well. The sentry hovered near the navigation console, its light flickering in a pattern that seemed almost nervous. Even Shiny's on edge, Ethan muttered. That's comforting. Sari leaned forward, her gaze fixed on the void ahead. The sentry's behavior suggests that the void is heavily shielded. It is likely a protective measure for the Great Catalyst. Protective for it, Ethan said. Not so much for us. As they crossed the threshold into the void, the ship's systems flickered. Lights dimmed, and the hum of the engines wavered. Ethan's grip on the controls tightened. Okay, he said, forcing a smile. Who had haunted space blackout on their cosmic bingo card? Sari ignored him, her focus on the console. The ship's systems are stabilizing. The void's influence is strong, but the sentry is compensating. Good to know, Ethan said, because I was totally ready to start paddling through space if this thing died on us. As they neared the pulsating point, a new presence made itself known. At first, it was subtle, a faint hum at the edge of perception, but it grew steadily louder, resonating through the ship. Ethan winced. Tell me that's not the sound of something about to eat us. Sari tilted her head, her glow shifting to a cautious amber. The resonance is an artificial signal. It may be a form of communication, or a warning. Here we go with the warnings again, Ethan said. Why is it never welcome weary travelers, complimentary snacks ahead? The sentry emitted a sharp tone, its appendages flaring with light. The hum transformed into a series of rhythmic pulses, and then, from the darkness of the void, Shapes began to emerge. Ethan's breath caught. What the hell are those? The shapes were sleek and angular, their surfaces shimmering with the same ethereal light as the Dyson fragment. They moved with precision, circling the ship like a pack of predators. Guardians, Sari said softly. They are remnants of the Creator's fleet. Automated defenses, perhaps. Defenses? Ethan said, his voice rising. And how exactly do we get past them without becoming space dust? Sari's glow brightened as she examined the sentry. The sentry may hold the key. It is a creation of the same technology, an artifact of the Creators. If it can interface with the Guardians, they may allow us passage. Ethan threw up his hands. No pressure, Shiny. Just convince the ancient murder bots that we're friendly. Easy peasy. The sentry floated toward the viewport, its light intensifying. The Guardians paused, their movements halting in unison. For a moment, the void was silent. Then, one by one, the Guardians emitted a series of pulses, their light synchronizing with the sentry's. They're responding, Sari said, her tone calm, but edged with awe. Ethan exhaled slowly. Great. Now let's hope they don't change their minds halfway through. The ship moved forward, escorted by the Guardians toward the pulsating point. As they neared their destination, the void seemed to shift, revealing a structure unlike anything Ethan had ever imagined. A massive crystalline sphere, glowing with an inner light that seemed to pulse in time with the sentry. Ethan stared, his voice barely above a whisper. So, that's the great catalyst? Sari nodded, her glow steady. Yes, and it appears to be waiting for us. Well, Ethan said, forcing a grin. Guess we better not keep it waiting then. The crystalline sphere of the great catalyst loomed before them, its surfaces rippling with cascading light. Inside the cockpit, Ethan and Sari stood side by side, each feeling the weight of the moment in their own way. You know, Ethan said, breaking the silence, for an ancient cosmic artifact, it's kind of pretty, like a disco ball of doom. Sari glanced at him, her glow flickering in soft hues of cyan and green, a sign she had learned to use when amused. I fail to see the comparison, but your irreverence is oddly grounding. That's me, Ethan replied with a grin. Cosmic grounding rod at your service. The sentry hovered closer to the sphere, its light synchronizing with the catalyst's pulsations. As the patterns aligned, the ship's console came to life, projecting a holographic interface filled with incomprehensible symbols. Any guesses on how to work this thing? Ethan asked, eyeing the display. The sentry will guide us, Sari said, her glow shifting to steady amber. The Creator's technology has brought us this far. We must trust it now. Trusting alien tech to not kill us. Got it, Ethan muttered. Let's hope it's feeling generous today. As the interface stabilized, a voice resonated through the ship, not spoken but felt, as if it reverberated directly within their minds. It was calm and ancient, each word carrying the weight of millennia. Bearers of the key, you stand before the great catalyst. Declare your purpose. Ethan blinked, then looked at Sari. Do we get multiple choice here, or? Sari stepped forward, her bioluminescence glowing brightly. We seek to prevent the destruction of the galaxy. The rift threatens all life, ours and yours. The catalyst's light shifted, dimming briefly before flaring again. The key may seal the rift, but the cost is great. What is broken can be mended only by sacrifice. Ethan frowned. Why is it always sacrifice? Can't it ever be something like, press this button and enjoy free pizza for life? Sari turned to him, her glow tinged with sadness. The Creators designed the catalyst to draw on life force. It requires a living host to activate fully. Ethan's stomach sank. Wait, are you saying someone has to die to fix this thing? Not die, Sari corrected, though her glow dimmed. But become one with the catalyst. The host will transcend physical form, existing only as part of the mechanism. Well, that's comforting, Ethan said. And by comforting, I mean horrifying. The catalyst's voice returned. The choice is yours. The key will bind the rift or remain inert. Choose swiftly. Ethan glanced at Sari, a knot forming in his chest. She looked calm, too calm, as if she had already made up her mind. Sari, he said, his voice low. You're not seriously thinking of— This is my responsibility, she interrupted, her glow unwavering. My people created the rift. It is only right that I— Stop, Ethan said firmly, stepping in front of her. You don't get to play martyr just because some ancient aliens messed up. We're a team, remember? Sari hesitated, her glow flickering. Ethan. Look, he said, raking a hand through his hair. There's gotta be another way. This thing is older than dirt. Maybe it doesn't know about, I don't know, modern upgrades? Sari tilted her head, considering. The sentry. Ethan snapped his fingers. Exactly. Shiny's been patching things together this whole time. What if it can modify the catalyst, spread the energy requirement across multiple sources? The sentry, as if on cue, emitted a series of rapid pulses. Its light intensified, projecting a new stream of symbols onto the interface. Sari's glow brightened with hope. It is possible. The sentry suggests reconfiguring the catalyst to draw power from the rift itself, neutralizing it without requiring a host. Ethan grinned. See? Teamwork. Now let's make it happen before the disco ball changes its mind. The ship trembled as the catalyst activated, its light enveloping the void. Ethan and Sari worked quickly, following the sentry's guidance to stabilize the rift. Outside the ship, the Guardians formed a protective perimeter, their synchronized movements creating a barrier against the rift's chaotic energy. As the catalyst's power grew, the void began to shrink, its darkness replaced by a swirling field of light. It's working, Sari said, her voice filled with awe. Of course it's working, Ethan replied. We've got the universe's shiniest Swiss Army knife on our side. The sentry emitted a final triumphant tone as the rift collapsed entirely. The void vanished, leaving behind a tranquil expanse of stars. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Well, that was only mildly terrifying. Sari turned to him, her glow soft and warm. You underestimate yourself, Lieutenant Marlowe. Your ingenuity was vital to our success. Ethan smirked. Vital, huh? I'll take that as a compliment. With the mission complete, the ship drifted in silence, the Guardians fading back into the depths of space. Ethan leaned back in his seat, exhaustion catching up with him. So, what now? Do we get medals? Free space vacations? Sari stepped closer, her gaze steady. Now, I must ask you a question. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Uh-oh, that sounds serious. She took a deep breath, her glow shifting to a delicate lavender, a color Ethan had come to recognize as her version of nervousness. What must I do, she said softly, to marry you, human? Ethan blinked, caught completely off guard. Wait, what? Sari's glow brightened. You are brave, resourceful, and amusing, despite your incessant sarcasm. I find myself drawn to you. Ethan stared at her for a moment, then burst out laughing. Sari frowned, her glow dimming. Is my proposal humorous to you? No, Ethan said, holding up his hands. It's just, I think you're the first person to ever propose to me after almost getting us both killed. He stepped closer, his grin softening into a genuine smile. But for the record, I'm kind of drawn to you too. Sari tilted her head, her glow brightening. Then, is that a yes? Ethan chuckled. Let's start with dinner first, maybe? And if you promise not to involve any ancient cosmic artifacts, we'll see where it goes. Sari's laughter, soft and musical, filled the cockpit, echoing among the stars. As the ship set course for home, the two of them stood side by side, a new chapter of their journey just beginning.